Previously on Laymans Journal Live. Recently, the WNBA commissioner is having an emergency meeting. It says WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert has reportedly sent a memo out to teams regarding transgenders in female sports. Says the topic is complex and nuanced. No, it isn't. Let's keep going. The memo obtained by the Associated Press comes as former NBA players Royce White and Enes Kanter Freedom announced their intentions to play in the WNBA. Okay, and the reason why they do that is because the WNBA, due to political correctness, doesn't want to define what a woman is. They don't want to define what a woman is. And so because there's no definition of a woman that they will recognize, and because they've made it clear that they think that trans belong, and we'll talk about that later, these grown men, these obvious men, both of them are like 6'8", 260 pounds, are saying, hey, I want to play in the WNBA next year. And according to the rules, they qualify, so they can't be discriminated against. But continuing, we recognize this is a complex, nuanced topic, and we will continue to have an important conversation with all of you and the players associated in this week's months ahead. We also plan to convene additional discussions after and offer listening sessions for any team leaders who would like to participate. Your perspectives and feedback are invaluable, and I appreciate those who have already reached out to share thoughts. It's not a complex topic at all, and it's not. It's not. But in this day and age, it is, especially when you have, I can't show NBA footage, especially when you have a Supreme Court Justice, Ketanji Brown Jackson, who can't define what a boy or a girl is.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
I can't.
But this all started because, this is not what started. This is in response to what Royce White did. So here you have Royce White here, former NBA player. He's about 6'8", 265, is saying, look, I'm going to play in the WNBA. This is my new feminine era. And there he is trolling with a blonde wig on. And then this all started with Enes Kanter.
After careful consideration and reviewing the current eligibility guidelines, I am officially declaring myself a WNBA prospect. If simply declaring who you are is all that's required, then I meet every single requirement necessary to compete in the WNBA. My team and I have carefully examined the WNBA's eligibility criteria and governing framework surrounding self-identification and inclusion. Based on the current guidelines, I can and am officially declaring my eligibility for the upcoming WNBA draft in May 2027. I am definitely not here to mock, make fun of, or disrespect any community or personal choices. I am simply asking that the current rules be applied equally to everyone. The rules that represent the very values many WNBA players and coaches have publicly advocated for. My team and I are prepared to ensure these guidelines are applied equally, consistently, and without exception. And I look forward to the WNBA honoring its stated principles. See you at training camp.
Now, you know what? Great point. If Brittney Griner identifies as a man and is in the WNBA, why not let real men play too? Now, what she's referring to is Brittney Griner. In her announcement of having a baby, she called herself Pops. She says, I'm going to be a dad.
I heard in an interview, and it's important for you that your son calls you Pops.
I do like Pops. I like Pops, honestly. Like, Rail is mom.
Okay.
It's only one mom. Rail's mom. And then this, whatever anybody else does in their household, sure. I support whatever you want to do in your household. But in my household, I like Pops.
Okay. And she's allowed to be in the league. So if Brittney Griner is calling herself Pops, if she's calling herself she's going to be a dad, and the WNBA doesn't want to define what a man or a woman is, he can do this. But next we're going to look at Royce White's comments.
You know, right now I'm just having a blast in my feminine era. I never thought that I was a woman. You know, I've always trusted the science, and I thought I was a man my entire life. But you know, after further review, strong look at my personal preferences, it would appear that I am indeed sometimes identifying as a transgender woman, and I think it's only fair I get a chance to play with some of my queens here in the twilight of my career, my athletic prime.
Well, and so exactly what you're saying, Royce, is just sort of pulls the curtain back on the lack of clarity in the WNBA's policies under Article 8 of their 2026 collective bargaining agreement. It's simply,
you know, right.
Yeah. And he has a point. Okay. There are no rules defining what is and what isn't a woman in the WNBA. And here's some more statements from Royce White.
Transgender. I'm a woman. I identify as sometimes identifying as a woman for purposes of basketball, professional basketball. So I'll be declaring for the WNBA draft in 2027 as well. I mean, I think I'd be unstoppable. You know, but I'm a team first guy. You know, I'm a pass first kind of player. I do the little things. You know, I led my team in all 5 major stat categories at Iowa State University. So I do a little bit of everything. I'll do whatever the coach needs me to do. I'll do whatever the girls need me to do. I think the WNBA could come out and make a definitive statement about guys with a pair of balls playing in the Women's Association. But you know, hey, that'd be probably too much like right. So, and I don't want to be discriminated against. No, I want fair treatment. I'm a black, I'm a young black, hopefully United States senator that would like a fair chance to participate as a sometimes identifying as a transgender woman athlete.
Yeah. So, and all of this started with Sophie Cunningham. Okay. She came out and was asked what she thought about the idea of biological men playing in sports. And this is what she said.
And you talked about wanting to protect young girls who shouldn't have to go against biological men. Just can you expand your viewpoint on that?
I mean, I think I said what I said. I think it's kind of common sense. And I think I'll always believe in that. I think it's really important to protect children, and that's little girls who are also involved in that category. And so I stand on what I said, and I always believe that.
Yeah. Do you see your advocacy on that, like taking any form going forward? You know,
I don't know. I'm not a very political person, but I do have beliefs. I have morals, and I'll always stand on those and be true to who I am. And I think people are going to take it how they want to take it, but I've never even really said anything about that. And so when it comes just to protecting young girls in sport and women in sport, I feel very strongly about that. I think that's why you have Title IX. That's why you have some of the greats in women's sports. If Title IX and women's sports weren't protected, then you wouldn't hear about any type of women in sport. And so I think in the future, it's just really important to protect.
Do you think, I guess along the line, like that it goes against perhaps, some people might say, hey, for the trans community, this could be something that could come back on us or be targeted against us. Like, how do you, I guess, view that sort of critique?
You know, like I said, I extend love, and I don't dislike anyone. Like, I think there's room for absolutely everyone here, and I think there's room to love everyone. And I truly think when you get people in the same room and you have conversations, you actually have a lot in common with a lot of people. And so I'm there to love, but I'm also there to love biological women, and I think that there are rights that need to be protected. And like I said, I'm going to stand true to that. I'll never falter in my beliefs in that, but I have never once said I hated the trans community. Like I said, I think there's space for everyone.
Sophie, what about Connecticut today? Tell us a little bit about the game. What are you thinking?
Okay, so you understand the gist of what she's saying. She's not being hateful. She's not being mean. She's not saying anything to bash or denigrate these people. She's just simply saying, you know, she doesn't believe that biological men belong in women's sports. And she mentioned safety, and that's true because, you know, men are bigger, stronger, faster than women. And so like a little bump, what we as men will consider a little bump, in a competitive physical sport like in basketball, that can injure a woman. You know, I think Sophie Cunningham's about 6'3", 100 and what is her height and weight? Maybe 140 pounds, maybe 150. You know, imagine her colliding with a guy who's 6'9", 260. It would break every bone in her body. So the result of her coming out and standing up against or making comments against biological males being in sports, it led to a whole backlash. So there was a game that she had and the fans came out trolling her, and it was nasty. It was nasty. And so later they asked her coach what she thought about biological males. She said Fever coach Stephanie White was asked if men should play in women's sports, and she says, "I'm not educated enough from a scientific standpoint." Why the hell do you need a bunch of education to know what gender is? I mean, this whole conversation is so stupid to me. It's so dumb. You know, a 5-year-old knows the difference between boys and girls, and we have to sit here and pretend as if we don't know? Oh my God. Anyway, let's listen to the interview.
What's your stance? What is your stance on men or athletes who test as biological male participating in women's sports? What's your personal stance?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I would say that I'm educated enough from a scientific standpoint. I don't ever believe that exclusion is an answer. I just don't. I do think, you know, when we think about various levels of sport, various governing bodies of sport and things that go into that, like I said, I'm not educated enough at the different levels. I know growing up, I played with the boys all the time.
So
there
you
weren't girl sports.
Would you welcome a biological male?
It's just I'm so tired of this double tongue. I'm not gonna listen to what she has to say. She's trivializing. Number one, she's talking about, oh, I don't know what the difference. Yes, you do, lady. You know what it is. You know what it is. Okay? And then she's gonna say, well, I played against the boy. Yeah, you played casually against the boys. You haven't played an actual physical game of competition against the boys. If you did, you would know the difference. You see what I'm saying? It's nothing for, you know, a 9-year-old girl playing against 9-year-old boys. Okay? That's nothing. But when you're talking about a grown man playing in a real competition and you feel that strength, that's something completely different. And she knows that. So she's lying here. She's committing a lie of a false impression. She's making it seem like there's no big deal for men to play against women. I can't, I'm so tired of this crap. I'm tired of people pretending as if this is a complicated issue. Now, Caitlin Clark came out and said something. I want you to understand the context of this. One of the things that Sophie Cunningham does is that she's primarily of an enforcer. Think of like Bill Laimbeer. She's there to bump and push and fight other girls on the opposite team. She's there to be a protector of Caitlin Clark. So she's there to be an enforcer. She's there to be Caitlin Clark's protector. Now, Sophie is catching all kinds of hell for her statements regarding biological men in sports. Now, they asked Caitlin Clark a question. Now, we saw what this moron had to say. Now let's listen to what Caitlin Clark has to say.
I think for us, like, you know, it's not really a discussion we really have in our locker room. I think it's for leagues and the governing bodies to work with their athletes to find solutions, but our focus is on basketball, and that's what we talk about and how we can get wins, and obviously we didn't do that tonight, so need to find an area to improve in that way.
Do you have any, reaction to the...
I just answered for you.
Thank you.
So she passed on the question. She passed on it. So Megyn Kelly called her a coward. And when I saw this, I burst out laughing. Because some of the YT supremacists a lot of them, and conservatives, they've rallied around Caitlin Clark. They've rallied around Caitlin Clark. She has become some type of conservative icon, all right? And the reason why they've rallied around Caitlin Clark is because they hate Angel Reese. And so they've made this woman the face of their movement and everything they believe. But the funny thing is, Caitlin Clark is a liberal, okay? She's not some hardcore right-wing conservative. She does not hold the views of any of the people that stomped the yard for her. She doesn't. You know? And so now they feel betrayed, like Megyn Kelly. She's calling her a coward. No, she's not. Caitlin Clark is who she's always been. And being that she's a liberal white woman, she probably does have no issue with biological men playing in the WNBA. I guarantee you she believes that. But she's calling her a coward. No. You made an idol out of this woman. You wanted her to believe that she was something that she wasn't. Caitlin Clark never came out as a conservative. She never came out, saying thank you to all these conservative pundits who were defending her. She never said thank you to all these conservative pundits that were attacking Angel Reese. They assumed that she was their princess. She never asked for that role. And I love the fact that it bursts their bubble that she's not the woman they want her to be. And let me tell you something else. If you know something about the Black community and you know something about white liberal women, and this is going to blow your mind, I'm willing to bet you that Angel Reese is probably more conservative than Caitlin Clark. Now, I'm not saying that Angel Reese is conservative, but when you talk about crazy liberalism, the white girl is always going to be further to the left than a regular Black person. And I'm willing to bet you, if you sat them down and asked them what they believe, Angel Reese probably has more conservative views than Caitlin Clark. I'm just putting it out there. Not that Angel Reese is a conservative, but Caitlin Clark is probably further to the left. But let's move on. So then you have the coach of I think it's the Minnesota Lynx, and she puts on a t-shirt, "Trans kids belong." Now think of this in the context of what Royce White was talking about, calling himself trans, and this is his feminine era. You come out with a t-shirt saying trans kids belong, or the trans community belongs. That's what triggered Royce White and Enes Kanter to come out and say they want to be in the WNBA, because you just had one of the coaches come out and say, hey, the trans community belongs. Okay, since you don't want to define what a woman is, okay, here you go. You get biological men saying they're trans coming into your league. All right. Now, this is going even further. So then you have Clay Travis, and I don't like Clay Travis either. Clay Travis is in the words of Tariq Nasheed, he's a suspected YT supremacist. But I think this is hilarious. This is hilarious.
Do a good job here. I have challenged the WNBA, which says, some of their coaches have been saying, that men who identify as women should be eligible to play in the league. Okay, now there's a French superstar, 21 points she's averaging, and by she I mean he, 20 rebounds a game. Okay, I want to do two things. One, I want to have a boys high school team versus the WNBA Las Vegas Aces. I'll put $10 million on the line. The boys are going to win. We're going to put it on pay-per-view. We're going to make a lot of money for charity. Secondly, Jesse, I am putting in an application to get a WNBA franchise for my home, Nashville. It's going to be the most inclusive team that has ever existed. Only trans, only men who identify as women on the team. Our motto, one love, two balls, the Nashville Balls. We are going to be the greatest women's basketball team starring men of all time. The best women, Jesse, are men.
All right. I think
There you go. He's trolling, but he's had a great point. Now, Karen didn't like what he had to say. Now, I want you to warn you, this is going to be a lot of inane, babble. It's not going to make any sense. But anyway, let's listen to what she has to say. And it's going to be hard, but we're going to listen to it.
One last thing tonight. The entire world of women's sports is facing the debate within its own leagues of who should get to play and who should not. And a voice that often shouts loudly in that debate is a right-leaning outlet owned by Fox News called Outkick Sports. And today its founder took to a new stunt, one that really makes no sense if Outkick is really concerned about caring about women in women's sports. So Clay Travis, he's the man behind Outkick. He announced today he's offering $10 million to the winner of a game of basketball between a high school boys team of his choosing and the WNBA defending champions, the Las Vegas Aces. I thought to myself, why? But obviously the answer is because he thinks it is so impossible for any group of women, let alone the best in the game, that they could ever beat younger and more inexperienced boys. It's a thinly veiled sexist joke, revealing the actual truth of how he and his organization feel about women's.
This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. This is stupid. What the hell is she talking about?
Sports. It's not about caring about them. They think women's sports are.
She just said a whole bunch of nothing. A whole bunch of nothing. None of that made sense. Okay? So is she offended by the idea? I don't even know what the hell she's talking about. Whatever, lady. Whatever. You should, and thinking about this highlights two things. Number one, she should leap at the opportunity of Clay Travis making this offer. Who remembers the battle of the sexes back in the 70s and how all the feminists were excited that a 20-something-year-old Billie Jean King in her prime beat a 50-year-old out-of-shape grandpa in tennis? Okay, here's another opportunity to show the dominance of women. Why are you scared? Why are you afraid? If he's challenging women to a game of basketball, your attitude should be game on. We're going to prove that we women are as good as boys. Now, you see, this is the problem. You see, and this it invites the controversy here. She's offended at the idea that boys are better at basketball than grown women simply because they're boys. But at the same time, she's caught up in she's on the opposite, she's caught up in the controversy of biological males being in sports. And that's the problem. Okay? A lot of women don't want biological males in sports because they know biological males are more dominant than women and will dominate them in the game of sports. But at the same time, they're offended by the idea of boys playing girls in basketball, of high school boys playing WNBA players. So they're riding both sides of the fence. I don't understand this. You shouldn't be offended by the idea of high school boys playing WNBA players if you support biological males being in the WNBA. Okay, that was confusing. What I meant to say is, women want their sports to be taken seriously. They want to be seen as equals and peers when it comes to basketball and other sports that they play, that there is no such thing as male dominance or male superiority. If that's true, they should be eager to display that equality. They should be eager to compete against men and show that they are on equal footing as men in that particular sport. So the idea of high schoolers playing WNBA players shouldn't offend them. They should be ready to go out there and prove that these grown women are better than boys. They shouldn't hide or duck the challenge. But the fact that they do is an admission that they know boys or biological males are physically superior to them. And for that reason, they should be opposed to biological males being in the WNBA because it would take away opportunities for women, as teams would prefer to have transsexual women than biological women on WNBA teams. So they're offended, but they're also riding the fence. They want to accept trans women, but they don't want to admit that biological males are physically superior. And so their ideas are in conflict with one another. You know, you shouldn't be offended by that. Both should be accepted. If you think that biological males should be in the WNBA, you shouldn't have a problem with WNBA players playing high school boys. She doesn't know what to believe. But this happens a lot on the left. They build these coalitions that have no commonality with each other. They have this big tent where they want to be accepting to feminists, but they also want to be open and accepting and inclusive to members of the trans community. But the problem is members of the trans community have a problem with women. Okay? Some would even say that some trans women want to replace biological women, that there's a jealousy there, that a lot of them want to play sports because it gives them the opportunity to hit and beat and push on women. Okay? But they're all on the same side, even though they're diametrically opposed to each other. So let's go here. Now, I talked about this. This was a case in New Jersey. Let me stop here. Hold that thought. So, one of the guys, my guy Michael Porter Jr. is at it again. And he said this. Lonzo Ball and Michael Porter Jr. said that when they were in 8th and 9th grade, they dominate the WNBA today. Lonzo Ball, he says, this is as respectfully as possible. But 9th grade Lonzo Ball in the WNBA is crazy. In 9th grade, I'm over 6 feet tall and I'm dunking. No girl in the WNBA is doing that. I'm looking like Jordan out there. Michael Porter, he says, Michael Porter Jr., I said, I have real experience doing this because my sister went to the University of Missouri and I was still a young dude and they had me playing like on the scout team. And they had a few WNBA players on that team, like Sophie Cunningham and a couple others. And I think I was in the 7th or 8th grade going dumb, meaning he was dominating them. It's just common sense. Now, let me tell you something. A lot of people don't want to accept the idea that high school boys or junior high school boys could dominate WNBA players in basketball. Now, some of them are liberals and progressives that are just delusional, feminists all as well. But some of them is because they grew up in suburbia or they didn't grow up around black kids. Now, I grew up in Detroit, okay? And let me tell you something about myself. Antonio Gates, who played in the NFL, grew up around the corner from me. Derek Coleman, who played in the NBA, grew up down the street from me. Me and Jalen Rose went to the same grade school. Okay? I say all that to say this. When I was in high school, I saw Shane Battier play in person. I was a freshman, he was a sophomore. I saw Robert Traylor, Maurice Taylor. They were all in high school in Detroit when I was coming up as a kid. I saw Chris Webber when he was coming up through high school. Okay? I know what a 12 and 13-year-old boy can do on a basketball court. Let me tell you something, especially those kids who have NBA potential. I've seen 13-year-old boys grab a rebound off of the court, run down the court, coast to coast, and just boom, just dunk the ball like it's nothing. Getting 30, 40 inches off the ground like it's nothing. I've seen this. When you grow up in the inner city, it's very common that you see 12 and 13-year-old boys that are rim rockers at 13. And if you grew up in cities like Detroit, DC, Chicago, Atlanta, Memphis, any city where there's a large concentration of black kids, you've seen what 13 and 14-year-old boys can do. And There's no woman playing basketball on the planet that can handle a 14-year-old boy. I'm telling you, I've seen it. I went to a school that was known for putting kids in the NBA. Okay? And football players. I know what a teenage boy could do to a girl in basketball. And I'm talking about kids that just play varsity basketball. Just varsity basketball. You know, don't let a kid that has NBA talent play against these girls. That's a whole different thing. Like I said, I saw Shane Battier play basketball at 15 years old, and he was 6'8" then, and he was a grown man at 15. Y'all just don't know. These crazy folks just don't know. But this is what I'm talking about in terms of the dangers here. So here you have a wrestling match between a trans athlete and a regular girl. And during this match, the trans athlete stuck his hand in the girl's private area and grabbed it. You know, and I don't know if you can see it here, but you're going to see the girl look at the camera. You see that shocked look on her face? She's trying to tell her mother he's grabbing her you know what. And this is the issue with having trans people in sports. It's not safe for women. Now, what they're talking about right here, there's a French athlete, what's the woman's name? What's the person's name? Julie I can't speak French. Whatever, it's Julie Tatart, I think her name is. This person is averaging 21 points and 21 rebounds a game. And there's talk of somehow getting them in the league. Now look at this. Look at this. Could you imagine this in the WNBA? She would destroy the competition. Look at that. Look how big. Imagine a WNBA player taking a hard foul against this. But yeah, this whole thing is a complete mess. And it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of this meeting, because they're going to have to take a side. They're going to have to take a side here. You know, how are you going to come up with rules that are inclusive and exclusive at the same time? How are you going to be supportive of the trans community while segregating the WNBA? And, you know, again, this is a safety issue. This is a safety issue.
Spending my Friday, some jerk chicken with rice seasoned, red beans and some bread. Got some red wine over here, and I'm watching Layman's Journal on YouTube. Shout out to the brother Layman, you know, check him out. I'll leave the link in the description. It's your boy Calvin King, and this is how I'm enjoying my Friday.